welcome back to my lovely HP community and the 5D Collective. To those who tuned in to our short, as I was saying, the egos that play big, arrogant egos, they play God. The other spiritual egos, they play fortune tellers, predictors, and the people in cloaks, while I respect my upbringing in Catholic, Christian, I'm not sure what happened. Except for now that they disregard neuroscience, neurobiology, very good experts who are helping anyone who wants to own that which is the inner kingdom of God, their body, and get heaven. They're against all of it. I don't believe in conspiracies. I also believe that them disrespecting Reiki by getting a theologian, no, that theologian went out of his way to disrespect an entire group of us who are healing because they don't like that they didn't get to give us a seal of approval. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. So any person who falls for rigid type of thinking and black and white and doesn't understand what spirituality, Christian, Catholics, what all the religions really are, and all of that which was from yesterday, it's the same shared consciousness sphere, but for those of us of faith, we come together. And so those in cloaks don't represent the faith. They represent for people who need rules, a way for them to make sense of things. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. But again, let's remember the 5D Collective, 3D, 4D, it's not a special group or anything. I'm organizing it in a way because I'm part of the 5D Collective as a mystic. And the Enlightenment Soul Age group is very specific. The other soul age groups, they learn about their self differently. But at the end of the day, really, it's all about inspiring human potential in many different ways, shapes, or forms, bringing spirituality, and sciences together to say, be yourself. And I am a mindfulness, mindset, and mindset practitioner, and more than just that. So with that, content creator, and we're going to talk about the seed that gives you integrity is being yourself with healed childhood trauma or never losing you. So I didn't lose me. And as determined, Robert Sapolsky points out, we have no free will. God told me to mind my own business about the 0-1-year-old suffering. And that's why, again, when you meet arrogant egos, they're only going to appeal to those who need them because the non-bilaterally integrated person has no integrity. Okay, so the seed that sustains lost integrity is a paused self from unhealed and ignored childhood trauma. I've met many trauma experts throughout my years in studying all this. And they all have had human beings come to them, whether from mystic to religious groups, with when they've awakened to it. And that's really sad to say because, again, it's all awful experiences within that which is supposed to support people. And furthermore, I have seen myself people who get captured and trying to speak to them. These are people that are learning material that I'm learning, and they're childhood trauma survivors who are not healed at all, yet they wear titles. And as I try, and every time I've tried to say, okay, no, they completely disregard me, like textbook rejection of an adaptive child who believes in their master. So Peter Pans and Lost Boys follow each other, which is why the arrogant ego that plays God, the only people who think they're not playing God, those in cloaks, are the ones who don't notice, okay, you're bringing the crusade. I don't know what you're doing, but this is completely out of, just you raise your hands. The bilaterally integrated and vertically integrated brain raises the hands. It's a sad story for me because I had good catechism. I had good upbringing. And I still believe, and I'm still connected. Yet I'm rejected, aren't I, by some of those because I'm a Reiki master, because I'm an Akashic record reader, because I'm a tarot reader. They think the Holy Spirit doesn't work through me. It works through me way more than it works through them because my heart is open to humanity and my brain is open and hearing the neuroscientists to explain what decentralization of the self is and what yoga helps. It doesn't bring demons out of you. You have a portfolio of ventral vagal toning exercises thanks to yoga. And mindfulness doesn't make you Buddhist. It is 3 pillars of the mind. And that's, thank you, Dr. Daniel Siegel and Stephen Porges and Peter Levine and all these smart human beings and Patrick McNamara. So to me, the fact that you're wearing a cloak and you want to tell me you're smart, no, you're an arrogant, blind ego at that. And your brain doesn't hear anything because if you could hear, then you would hear that we can all have heaven in our body, which you would want. If you were somebody who still held the Holy Spirit. No, you hold it by words. Sure, non-bilaterally integrated people, their left mode keeps on moving forward. What I know is your right mode doesn't work because you are not able to capacitate different religions and spiritual beliefs coming together because of your ego. And then because of who knows what. Again, I have no words because I'm not going to make the conspiracies be what is it. No, there's no conspiracy. 4D believes in all that. 5D believes in nothing of that. It's be yourself. That's what I'm focused on here. So we have laws, thank goodness. We go vote. We keep voting. And we come together, smart brains, stable, mature, adaptive, rational, teachable, try to respect people. I always just say one thing. My physical safety is my number one priority. God said I'm safe. As for emotional, mental, people can call you all the names in the book. If you're a person who has an empowered ego, you don't give a shit. You're like, sure, keep it coming. What else? What are you going to come up with today? Because all you use is Lucifer or evil in the same shitty stories again and again and again. And they're not controlling people. They're only controlling. No, that's what I'm trying to say. I saw this one reader. She's Judgment Day. Wow, another one, predictions. So the people who want that though, they're seeking that because they are in a non-bilaterally integrated brain with unhealed, ignored childhood trauma, and they continue to ignore people like Patrick Tiahan, a good childhood trauma survivor, healed and healing therapist who has a beautiful community online, and anyone who would be objective enough and self-aware, accountable, and regulated enough would go read it and be like, okay, you know what? I'm coming to you, Patrick. Thank you. Instead, if they're following fancy man and women and everybody else in suit, they're just deciding, like he shared in yesterday's post. I read that one to you. Let me go and find it, and then we'll continue with what I have share. And then we might have some more messages. But the yesterday, childhood trauma eventually, he says, catches up to everyone who went through it. It is up to the individual if they take their wounds seriously or not. And then he also has something else that today was on the menu. And let me just give me a second, find it. Where are you? Here you are. Young children are naturally codependent. They will do everything they can to make the upset go away in their caregivers for safety and connection. In early childhood, 0 to 8 years, children are highly dependent on their caregivers for emotional safety. They need a daily safety with their parents to manage the world and feelings. It is a healthy developmental dependency. That's why that asshole who wants to lock up a poor 2-year-old doesn't know shit about the brain, and yet he thinks he does. And so does that lady who also has her own ideas, and they disregard smart therapists because they don't like what they hear because they don't have a bilaterally integrated brain. Nope. They actively inside are like, how dare they? That's how they feel. The lady made me laugh 2 days ago. She's talking about toxic positivity. You can tell how much she's like, as she's describing shit. And I'm like, wow, it's a good thing we're not near each other because I'm pretty sure I'd be ticking off every single one of those fires within you. And I don't know how much you would be able to sustain. Okay, so when children are growing up in childhood trauma, they're overly in tune with abusive or neglectful parents' emotions, and in turn do not have the safety to live and operate from their own emotions fully. As we grow, he says, we don't know the line between us and others. And childhood trauma means having a dysregulated, emotionally dangerous parent or is in danger themselves from a perpetrating co-parent. Children can become whatever their parent accuses them of or start believing they have the power to change an adult's life through caretaking. So you can check him out. He's on YouTube. But back to what I wanted to share. So when you meet these smart therapists, they tell you why the adaptive child part that is ruling any human being who disregards going to get their childhood saved will have all those narratives and all those people they follow. They in fact talk to each other like they're cheerleaders and cheer squads. And once again, the adaptive child is a person though who will be rigid, unforgiving, harsh, and in fact if they are not welcoming of their inner world like the fancy lady and man in suit are not, they will be with those 7 to 14 charming. Which is also where, as I've said before, God told me mind your own business about the 0-1-year-old, and also about I don't play God and I don't play anything of let me tell you about the future the way the 40 does, because they have, in my personal subjective opinion, dishonored everything that I instead looked at as something that did support me growing up. The saints, the angels, the archangels. So now that I see what 4D actively has become, yes, they all have access to the shared sphere that we do as mystics, but they dishonor mysticism. In my personal subjective opinion, they also dishonor what the ancients brought. But that's because they're lost in a time. So, because they're dressing up versus being their human self, they don't have the capacity to download and to channel with their presence. They are in a world of their stories. They're completely over all over their stories. So, it's not a race again. And we'll talk more about it. But in the meantime, the seed that gives you integrity is being yourself with healed childhood trauma or never losing you, while the seed that sustains lost integrity is a paused self from unhealed and ignored childhood trauma. Paused self people and mystics are in the 3D, 4D collective. This is how I'm organizing it. Please don't write it down because it ain't a rule of any sort. They lead with unhealed charged 0-3-year-old implicit memory, 4 to 8 subconscious explicit memory, child parts 11-12 flight and fight response 14-16. Those are the child parts that we all have. Mine are uncharged and asleep. I use my higher self. So only reason I would be able to tell you all about being yourself. Otherwise, I'd be a liar, liar, pants on fire. I got lucky though, because again, I got to keep my 3-year-old. She's a differentiated self, and my 16-year-old wasn't upset when I met all the cowards. My 11-12-year-old, I got to take care of it, and I then chose my herd. And as I move forward, I realized as I got into my mid-adulthood that the herd that I chose, they're all the same. If they have not healed their abandonment, rejection, shame, all those wounds, and my facade friend is the one who taught me how not to waste my time. And anyone else really doesn't count because, again, once you learn how one person doesn't receive what you're sharing from the heart and soul, it doesn't take much to notice it again. Plus, it's a nervous system. That's what we all have at the base. So mine is a safety because I'm socially engaged to be Maria. My facade friends and anyone who has no integrity because they got a 16-year-old leading them, so they have disowned parts, they're all going to come out of the woodwork like Cusco does. So they're just liars. And then you meet Pachas. When you meet Pachas, those are the people who own a whole self, and they therefore have a flag post and a flag, and you'll know who they are. Okay, and that's our 5D collective. So the child parts, for those 3D, 4D, they remain full of fear, defectiveness, and shame. They remain charged. They remain in a pseudo-aliveness in the brain. They're non-bilateral integration. They have threat response with fight, flight, freeze, flop, drop, attach, cry, collapse, submit, and please appease. And they continue this. So they hold on to the white and black thinking, the right and wrong. They are rigid, unforgiving in their narratives due to the non-bilateral integration. They use the dark sides of neuroplasticity and they wire themselves shut in their shame cycle 0 to 8-year-olds subconscious narrative to play out for the remainder of their adult life. Again, this is a conciliant approach from all the information that I have, and then from me being a person saying, this is what I've noticed. In fact, again, the ones who are predicting for you for 2025, they talk to you like you're a kid. The ones who want that, though, they want the person to be rigid, yell in their face, give them it. That's the adaptive child. That's why they're Peter Pans and lost boys. So you're going to spot them if you're 5D collective. That's why we don't really do anything except for make fun of them because they're following the laws. So as long as they're following the laws, we don't have anything to say. If they end up in prison, hopefully they get a good therapist. And there you go. So as for us needing to go around telling some tarot reader or some person in cloak, what not to do, that's not really what it is to be a whole self. To be a whole self means that you understand that all people either are going to be emotionally, mentally, and physically intelligent and or not. And there you go. So we get to be ourselves, and with the healthy self-worth intelligent people who don't lose faith. No, I have not lost faith of God one day in my life. Just told them those people don't represent you. Or what I learned, and they don't represent Jesus or Holy Spirit. They really, really are monsters, and now I know why. Thanks to Patrick McNamara, neuroscientist. Thanks to Peter Levine. Thanks to Stephen Porges, Bezel Vanderkolk, Dr. Daniel Siegel, Dr. Daniel Fox, all of them. And then when I see egos of science, I know who they are too. I've never met a medium ever. Wow, I see. You don't know that 97% of what is out there is unavailable to you, but I do. And that's because I'm both a mystic and a blind faith person and a 3-year-old, and I like to learn things. And I'm pseudoscience, but I like science. In fact, I still try, Sabine, to read your book. I will read it. It's just the jibber jabber. It's like math and algebra, and I'm like, I need to read it later. For now, I'm focusing on personal development with people, so I'll get to it though, Sabine. Okay, so karma is the choice of the pause self, mystics, and people of the 3D 4D collective who don't pursue healing trauma with a good therapist or care about what they bring to life in relationships with the adaptive child, rigid thinking, and maladaptive patterns of behaviors. It's like my facade friend. He didn't care when we got into it what I was telling him. Otherwise, he would have came back around and said, "You know what, Maria, I'm so sorry. Next time I'll tell you I don't believe in God, mysticism, and I'll allow me to know that I don't want to waste our time together like you're sharing because it's true. I want us to have a genuine, open-hearted, big heated debate and, and keep moving forward." He also wouldn't have forgotten what I told him. Which is why, I love my friend to death, but it doesn't matter. What I'm telling you all is something that was a very big disappointment, but it's a very good lesson, and I love him because thanks to him, I didn't have to use my time with any other human being moving forward in any way of, oh my God, or really yelled in their face, which was not necessary. He's the friend that got the brunt of it. He got 5 years that I didn't talk to him. He was in my little hate box. And I learned how I would never do that again. It was silly. And then I did process all that. And I don't really hate people. It's a really strong, bad word for a child like me. And of God again. I told God, I said, hey, I'm not leaving him in the box. I'm going to process it. And that other person too. But long story short, then I got to yell in my friend's face. And then I got to see his oblivious face. I'm like, okay. And then I got trauma and attachment informed, and that kept on confirming what my brain had already learned, which is you don't have your subconscious. It rules you. You're a 0-3-year-old. Wow, with a 16-year-old. That's very fascinating. So karma, very interesting to meet them. Yes, they don't change unless they go to therapy and then become their true self. So they will feel changed because they will unpause and say, okay, I'm going to work with all my maladaptive patterns of behavior and all of this adaptive child stuff that's coming up. And I'm going to work with all the shame, blame, fault, revenge, envy, and jealousy and spite and all this not securely attached suffering. And we have an avoidant on screen saying she's not going to do any of that, by the way. So again, leave it alone. Robert's Sapolsky determined. No free will. 5D collective, mystics, and people we lead with a whole self thanks to having healed trauma and child parts, or you didn't lose yourself, so you were able to easily process thoughts and emotions. And easily is the word of choice because prefrontal cortex, raise your hand. I'm okay with being deeply emotional. I'm a woman. Don't you forget those stereotypes, shall we? I go chaos. No, I don't do chaotic, but I can be quite repetitive, and I did learn about emotional mastery thanks to Twin Flame 1. Then Twin Flame 2 and 3 just continue to allow me to know it's awesome. And my soulmates, they really honed it in. I'm getting to be more and more myself as an empowered feminine. We're going to talk about that one in a little bit. Okay, so we can thank all of our oversoul. A 5D empowered feminine mystic in the Enlightenment Soul Age group. The other ones, they have stories for you. There's the fourth wave of twin flames, and others have no emotion with their twin flame. And I'm like, wow, okay, that's not interesting. I love to love, and my baby, he loves to dance, and he loves to laugh and have fun and read and not cast stones. Otherwise, yeah, it's not a lover of mine. Too boring, black and white thinking. No way, Jose. So we use the bright sides of neuroplasticity thanks to having bilaterally integrated brains and owning our sense of self and owning our body, mind, and heart. So you got a flag and a flag post. It's really awesome. So we don't live out karma. No. We know when it's happening if we have any of the karma that we work through, and then we live out dharma, and that's consistently as pure consciousness and pure energy. It's called prakriti, and it's called purusha. Purusha is pure consciousness, prakriti is pure energy. And it's called an integrated brain, bilateral vertical. Dr. Daniel Siegel in one of my courses was making me very well aware of how easy it is to explain it to you. I have a default mode network. It's down-regulated. I have an insula. It's activated. It's because Maria's cool to be Maria, because I don't have a shame button, because my 3-year-old never got shamed. And you can't actively shame someone who's never felt it, especially when she got taught how never, ever, ever to let anyone talk down to them. So you can thank my mother for this. You thank my mother. Yes, her. And when she says, I should have spanked you more, it's only because we're disagreeing. I say, well, it's late now, too late, so sad. And then she's like, no, I'm not sad. And I'm like, I'm not sad either. And I bet you even if you did spank me, I have a hunch that my little 3-year-old, as she said before, don't spank me, it's my body, and then went to make her suitcase, would have felt quite unhappy with that choice. So I'm going to say unbreakable. But it is thanks to her nervous system not being scary. That's what I'm sure of too. And also because I have a twin. Determined, come on in. So me being able to hug a little in the belly. My implicit memory is full of not ever being alone. Are you lonesome tonight? No, I had the umbilical cord wrapped around me, and we tease about it, but just saying, never alone. Not in this lifetime. So the essence that everybody has within them, but not all of people choose to pursue, is that eternal child. So we are true to our eternal child, the 5D collective, okay? And that's either healed with a trauma therapist and or not losing the eternal child. So join us here at the 5D collective, IHP community. If you love being yourself with flaws, imperfections, and integrity, enjoy hearing about and putting into practice mindfully, spiritually living and loving practices. Mindfulness, mindset. And if you need mentorship, let me know. Sign up for the masterclass and the spirituality retreats if you're curious, because there's a list. Also, of course, you enjoy the skills and lifestyle choices that involve non-reactivity. It means that we get to be pachas. So, excuse me, you're confusing. You get to have fun. Krishna, Leela, Shiva, and Kali, they're all over the place. Oh, and we use words however we may please. We don't get picky about it. We just have fun with it. And then we continue to have fun with all of the 5D collective. All of spirituality, blind faith people, Holy Spirit people, true people, grown-up people. They have compassion and a brain that works. That's why they have compassion. So fun, mystic, enlightenment, spiritual, mindful, self-empowered stories from an empowered feminine. They're all empowered feminines, and that's why they're also all empowered masculines. So we'll be back in a little bit. Thanks for stopping by. Like and share and subscribe. It helps the channel grow, and see you soon.